Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from thousands of successful individuals from around the world. I'm your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I'm delighted to welcome a very accomplished marketer from Warwick, UK, Archana Dhankar. Archana, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Ashutosh, for having me. It's a pleasure and honor to be here on your podcast, and I'm looking forward to this conversation.
Thank you. Thank you. Archana is a marketing leader, an influencer, and a content creator. She has been formerly with Mimecast, Purple Bricks. And so, Archana, my first question to you before we get into marketing, tell me a little bit about your own journey and what got you interested in marketing.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Ashutosh. So, I did my computer engineering back in India. That was the typical career path that parents would choose for their kids. Obviously, during the course, I got interested in more of the digital side of the world. At that time, the digital marketing foray was literally just starting. So one of my 6 months dissertation was essentially around breaking down Google's SEO algorithm at that point of time. On back of the work that I did, I got my first job, which was around search engine optimization for websites and platforms. I work with organizations like Best Buy in their e-learning team. And from there, I also went into doing PPC, which is like paid search. When I got told about paid search, like, would you want to do PPC is what they said. I was like, what do you mean PPC? It's like pay-per-click. I'm like, am I clicking on a physical paper? Like, what is it? Because nobody really knew this. In fact, there were no digital courses, even by Google, on what paid search is. So it was just like learning on its own. And I think I was probably the first few people in like first 3 months who got the certification from Google. So like, I've seen the journey of digital marketing from when it started in its nascent stages to today, where everybody wants to be a digital marketer. There is so much change that has happened over the years as well. And from digital marketing, I went on to, being a full-scale marketer over 20 years. I always loved fashion. At one point, I wanted to be a fashion designer, obviously, as all kids want to. So when I got into digital marketing, I also started a blog, which was around fashion. And from there, started Fashion for Royals and the journey of content creation. And after doing that for 10, 11 years, I felt like I want to join the two things together. So today, I'm talking more about marketing, content creation, and my own lifestyle on that platform.
Amazing, amazing. And as they say, the rest is history.
Thank you.
Wonderful. So, Archana, let's talk a little bit about marketing. Let me ask you my first question. You talked about integrating a lot of the two skills that you had. My first question is, how do you approach creating integrated marketing campaigns that resonate across different geographies?
Sure. I think integrated marketing campaigns are born out of understanding where your customer is and what it is about. We talk a lot about in marketing about customer personas, but I feel like a lot of times it is actually a miss. Companies don't understand their customers so well and how the buying behaviors happen. So getting to using all the channels that you have at your disposal, right? It doesn't have to be that you have to be on all channels, but whatever you are using, just make sure you're talking to the customers where they are. I cannot market to a B2B organization on Instagram, very simple example, and I can't market to a B2C customer on LinkedIn. And then also understanding, like, if I am going to talk to somebody in finance, what would be their go-to platforms, and then creating a campaign around it. When it comes to also rolling it out in different geographies, I think we have to accommodate for cultural nuances, understanding and tailoring the content for their sensibilities, for sure.
Well said. And based on the work that you've been doing with so many different clients, what is the most common mistake you have seen when people create digital marketing campaigns?
I think one probably is a repeat, so I'll talk about it later. But I feel like most of the time when it comes to digital marketing campaign, it's about expecting the results overnight, right? Like I would work with my team, I would work with external people. They would all think, today I'm going to start my paid campaign, and tomorrow I'm going to have a pipeline full of leads or customers buying. No, it doesn't happen. Even on that platform, you have to tweak and optimize. So one has to accommodate for that time of optimization. But overall, again, understanding your customer persona is a mess, even in online. You're sometimes people are just overtly selling. And in today's world, where even digital is nothing of like a, something new, right? We've seen everything there. So a salesy message does not resonate. Second, the last one probably is not having a follow-up plan. So yeah, I've put an ad, and a lot of small businesses probably do that more so. They'll put an ad up, but they don't know what to do after that, or they haven't thought about the strategy that follows from there.
Right.
So those would be my three things.
Fascinating. Fascinating. And I'm sure you've been asked this question many times. How important is storytelling when you create a marketing campaign?
I think we've heard this word so much, storytelling. And I don't think it's been overtold or oversaid, but I guess not understood. What it actually means is that in marketing, it's about creating that human connection, right? It's about creating that recall. And it's about having that understanding of the brand that you become the default choice. So, for example, when somebody is going and, uh, in a shopping for like home stuff, the grocery store, they just go with their wheelie, but they are just shopping by default, right? You're picking the brands that you know, you're picking the brands that you like. How is that choice happening? That's because of all the stories, all the small touch points that the brand has created over the years. So I guess for me, humans have grown up with stories, right? We from kids have read storybooks, our moms have told us stories. So storytelling really helps us to create that connect in the subconscious of the brain. And that's where I think the importance of storytelling comes from.
Well said. Archana, you also work with so many different brands around the world. What are some of the biggest challenges you face when scaling brands internationally?
Yeah, I think first of all, a lot of brands do want to get into like international, right? So a brand in India might want to launch in UK, a brand from US might want to launch in India. But one of the common myths, obviously, first is to understand the culture, the themes that are going to play. You cannot take the same Christmas campaign that you created in UK to India, even though Christmas is a big thing in India as well, but the application or the understanding of the culture and the festival is very different. Also, the other thing is the commitment, doing the market research. So, yes, India looks like a very tempting geography. What does it really mean? What does it mean in terms of ROI? How much time will it take? So, doing that market research firsthand, having a plan to execute is really important. And I'm saying this from a previous experience where I worked for a company which was actually a startup in UK, then wanted to launch in US, Australia, and India. And we had to like go through all the research, right? Like we didn't go through and say, let's just launch because we think US is a tempting market or Australia. And in the end, they actually did not launch in India at all. They went and launched in US and Australia. Marginal success once again because of the commitment and the budget that would need to scale, right? Going to a bigger geography also needs a lot more budget commitment.
Well said. And I'd also love to get your perspective on the importance or role of data analytics and how this has evolved as an amazing tool for marketing strategy.
I think data analytics itself is a very vast field. Obviously, today, because of digital platforms, all the organizations are sitting on like data. Like it's a lot more data than somebody can analyze. And I think that's the challenge. I guess we talk about data analytics, but we do very little in that side most of the time. So having the data, but being able to assess and come out with meaningful applications and insights is very critical. It's not about just saying, by the way, the data says in marketing, for example, here's the CTR, here's my CPC. What does it mean? Are we doing good, better? What's comparative? Where do we want to go next? And what do you see in competitors as well? So I think it's a very vast field, but probably under invested in most of the times in the organization.
Well said. And the other buzzword that now seems to be impacting everybody in marketing is technology, and more importantly, artificial intelligence. What is your perspective on the role of artificial intelligence in modern marketing practices?
I think artificial intelligence, I get asked about this a lot. Obviously,
Mm,
I've done like my LBS course as
right.
well. What I see is that AI is going to stay here. Companies right now are more in like pilot stages,
Mm,
most of the time, at least in marketing teams. There are small tests happening in different teams. We are using different tools. Most of the tools are coming with AI enhancement. So it's like a bumper year for product development with like AI embedded tools, and which is going to be here for a while. It's all more about creating, obviously, what organizations are looking for is efficiencies, value creation at scale. I think where the benefit will come from is not to look at cost saving straight away, but to look at how we can enable teams to use it to actually deliver more
mhm.
would be the key benefits. So where the organizations actually stop thinking about cost saving, but efficiencies and scale will actually see a growth curve faster. And at the same time, I guess it's about having those use cases based on, your organizations is quite critical.
Hmm. Well said. And Archana, how would you ensure an alignment between marketing and sales teams to drive overall revenue?
I think in any organization, especially in my world, I come from like B2B today, right? Marketing and sales are like partners. They have to work together. They might be two wheels of the car, but if one wheel doesn't run, then the
Mm,
car can't run as well.
yeah,
So they have to be in very like good alignment, and that comes from transparency. Maybe having some kind of common goals that they're all working towards, understanding of challenges on both sides, because that creates empathy within the team, which is very critical when you have to work together.
right.
For and also at the same time, probably just having a very customer centric approach, because when the goal changes from a number, when the goal changes from deliverables to what can we deliver to the customer,
Mm,
then both the parties are having a common goal in a very broad perspective.
very interesting. So, two more questions relating to marketing, and then we'll move to another segment. How can one balance short-term versus long-term marketing goals? And a few minutes back, you spoke about how people tend to get very impatient, but there are short-term goals and long-term goals. How would
Yeah.
you balance these?
Yes, I think it's a beautiful balance that is needed within marketing. Most of the times today, because of data and all the analytics, the finance organization, let's say, is always looking for that ROI from marketing. And well said, so it is needed,
Yeah.
because marketing sometimes is probably the biggest cost center when it comes to like the expense that happens with campaigns and creation of assets, etc. So, but the long-term goal probably needs to be measured on a long term,
Mm,
right? So what I feel is short term is definitely helpful when the brand doesn't have, the sales volume or incoming traffic, whatever that may be. But the long-term goal is 3 to 5 years when you've invested in that strategy. So a split budget essentially of some kind. What the brands tend to see is the inbound starts to increase, whether it's inbound sales, inbound queries. And what happens with that is the short term the other spend on the short term lever starts to reduce.
mm,
So that is where the beauty lies. And some organizations at the board level understand this because they might have experts who've done this before, but I guess overall in each organization advocates are needed for this,
mm,
which is sometimes missing because marketing is also measured year on year.
mm. Great response. And my last question on marketing: what marketing trends do you think will shape the future of global marketing?
That's a tough one because I feel like I always say like 6 months, I don't know what is going to be in marketing. Like I can think like platforms change, strategies change, something new will come up for sure. But right now, the trends that I'm seeing that are shaping marketing, we've talked about AI for sure already.
Mm,
Data analytics has been here for a while. But some of the other ones that I see is video content. I mean, we've started using it, but a lot more of that will keep happening. Because the cost of production will keep going down,
yeah.
and that will remove the barrier for entry for brands.
Mm,
The other is AR, sorry, VR actually. So,
mm,
brands are like not toying up with it as much today, but I think the adoption of this will happen eventually.
mm,
So, and also however much we want, but the automation side, which is chatbots, automation through messaging, how are we engaging with customers will also change. I know email marketing is still a big thing, but I guess the next step would be also how are we like using our messaging platforms to engage with customers, which will see a shift.
Great response. Thank you. So, Archana, I'm going to now move to your other avatar as a brand influencer.
Thank you.
Tell me a little bit about you as an influencer and how do you decide which brands to partner with?
Yes, I think I've been asked this question a few times actually, and I'll be honest with you. I should call that I'm lucky that influencing is not my full-time
Yeah.
role. And I choose to be like that because then I can be true to myself and I'm not paying my bills from being an influencer. So for me, it is about the brand that I would like to use, I would want to use, are the ones that I would want to partner with. I would never go about recommending a brand that I feel does not work with my personality. So for me, my channel is literally a reflection of what I am. I don't talk about every single trend in fashion because that's not how I see people should be living. I mean, I'm not preaching. There is a value in following trends, but at the same time, just buying what trend is not a sustainable way of living. And I feel like that's where my value system comes from.
Well said. And as a brand influencer, have you faced any challenges? And if yes, how have you overcome them?
Yes, I think we all have like different challenges and learning curve, right? And I feel like even brands have had learning curve when it comes to influencer marketing because they've just had to go into this as it became a trend. Some were trying for it before, and new opportunities came along. For me, from my side of the world, what I saw was that there were a lot of like rushed briefs, last minute planning has probably changed a bit now in last 2 years, but definitely 4 to 5 years back, there would be very last minute campaign executions, not proper written briefs, but also like massive changes and edits would happen. So those were the challenges and frustrations that I felt. But because of me coming from the side of view of a marketer, it was very easy for me to understand what was happening on the other side, what was probably driving this as well. At times, I've been empathetic with my brand marketers, and I've said, okay, I understand where it's coming from. But at the same time, I guess sometimes it's just about educating and setting boundaries or just communicating better, right? So I might get an edit, but might not be able to deliver it. So have to be transparent and say, I would love to, but either I need more time or we need to look at something else. So we've had those conversations, but overall, brands have been supporting, and especially agencies, because they tend to work a lot more with influencers, so have more experience managing influencer relations too.
Thank you. I have time for two more questions. My next question is, how do you maintain authenticity while promoting your brands?
I think it's not just about saying, I would promote the brands that I love or use. It goes a little more deeper than that, right? Like Instagram sometimes, because of aesthetics and the way people want to showcase the content, means you don't portray the content in its real form. And over the years, what I've realized is when I'm talking about a product or a service or a tool for that matter, if I can portray it in my authentic form, like the way I would use it or the way it would actually be used in the life, then it creates a better connect with people versus just portraying something on a very aesthetic level, actually.
Thank you. And my last question to you, Archana, and this is for the many, many, many people who will listen to our conversation. Can you share a story of a particularly impactful collaboration you've had with a brand? What have been some of your learnings from it? And you don't need to give names, of course.
No, that's fine. I mean, I can definitely talk about the brand name, but not maybe further than that. So the one that I would remember is American Express, and they had a support small business campaign over Christmas, which I was part of. And the campaign was about highlighting small businesses within your local region. So we went around looking for smaller businesses around my hometown, like where I live today. And we found a very small candle making shop
Mhm.
who was doing candles around Christmas because it's a gifting item as well, which people would buy. And they had amazing collection. It was a very small shop, maybe opened in a container, like a storage container.
Mhm.
So we wanted to bring their story to life. We talked to them, talked about their story, got the video done, shared it, and the brand saw some traffic to their shop. Not only that, but their whole story went out to a lot of people in the community because I'm local to this city as well. That really helped them boost their sales, but also gave them a lot more confidence to talk about themselves. And they were so pleased with the way we have supported. Amex didn't pay the brand at all.
Mm.
Amex, it was mainly about just sharing stories and bringing those people who are doing something around Christmas so that other people from the town can go and support. So I felt like those kind of initiatives from brands are where the real value of content and influencing comes from. I mean, to be honest, Amex does this regularly, right? On their card, they would have if you shop from small businesses, you get some cash back.
Mm.
But rather than coming to me and saying, let's just talk about that offer, they had a whole plan about how they would bring small businesses to life. And I
Mm.
think that's the kind of value that I like. Would love to do more of it. The other one that I really like was the campaign that I've done with National Cyber Security Center.
Mhm.
This was back in COVID, so a UK organization, and mainly because a lot of businesses were going online at that point, but did not know how to keep themselves secure. So it was around giving guidance on how to keep your business secure. In fact, I learned a thing or two as well during that campaign on cybersecurity for sure.
Mm. Fascinating. Clearly, Archana, not only are you a good marketer and a good influencer, but you're also a very good storyteller. Both the stories you gave me were so interesting and really will connect with all our viewers and listeners. But on that note, thank you, Archana, for speaking to me about your own amazing journey. Thank you for talking to me at such length on so many different aspects of marketing. I think we covered a lot of ground, and your inputs were really valuable. I learned some new things from you. Thank you also for talking to me about you as a brand influencer. Thank you again for speaking to me, and good luck.
Thank you, Ashutosh. Take care.
Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the brand called You.